We are into my top 50 favorite board games now. If you really want to get a good idea of what my board game tastes are like, then you won't want to miss the rest of this list. What's up, Brew Crew? Welcome back to my top 100 games of all time. Now, I've loved every game on this list so far, but I feel like this is really where we start getting into outstanding territory. So, let's jump right in.
50.
Number 50 is Gloom Haven. Now, obviously, a game this huge is going to make a huge splash. This game has really taken the world by storm. It was number one on Board Game Geek for quite a long time, and since then there have been puzzles, comics, and an excellent video game adaptation released. It's also spun off multiple new games in the same universe. This is such an epic game. I still remember when I first heard about it and the fact that there were nearly 100 scenarios. This was the beginning of my love for campaign games, although I would eventually get burnt out on them. But what I really did like about Gloomhaven was the fantastic hand management combat system. Each character has their own deck of cards that represents their skills and abilities. These cards are split into top and bottom actions. Each round of combat you'll choose 2 cards and use the top action of one card and the bottom action of the other. These cards are also going to determine your initiative order, and timing is crucial in this game. Since I own both Gloomhaven and the app, I don't really feel any need to own Frosthaven yet, but who knows, maybe sometime in the far distant future when I finally finish what I already own, then maybe I'll take a look at Frosthaven.
49.
Number 49 is Race for the Galaxy. I love games where your cards act as your engine, your resources, and your currency. In this game, you are trying to build up an engine of cards to produce resources, points, and to draw more cards. It also has the following mechanism, which means that each round the players choose an action to take. Everyone gets to do that action, but whoever chooses it gets an added bonus or benefit. Several other games that I really love also have this mechanism, which you'll probably see later on. In this game, you can colonize planets either through trade or warfare, although I admit that I tend to prefer going the trade route because it feels more satisfying when you're building up your engine, to me. We also own Jump Drive, which is a sister game to Race for the Galaxy, but in a much shorter time frame. Honestly, I think Race for the Galaxy would be a little higher on this list if it was just a little bit more streamlined and the iconography was a little cleaner and easier to understand.
48.
Number 48 is Cascadia. This is a wonderful game with a beautiful cover by Beth Sobel, one of my favorite artists working in board gaming. This is another game with the very popular nature theme, and although it might not look like it on the table, it actually felt more thematic than I expected. We've played a few games now that have a similar draft a tile and a thing to put on the tile mechanism, but this one is definitely my favorite. Its rules are easy to understand, but you can adjust the complexity of the game if you wish by choosing different animal cards to use in the game. There will be a row of tiles available, and with each of those tiles is an animal token. You choose any tile to add to your habitat, but you must take the animal token paired with it and be able to place it somewhere. Each tile shows the types of animals that can be placed on them, and depending on the animal cards chosen at the beginning of the game, you'll be trying to get the animal tokens into a certain pattern. You're also trying to group as much of the same terrain type together as possible. It's not a complex game by any means, but it can get your brain cooking a little bit when you're trying to decide where to place everything. Some tiles will give you nature tokens as well, and these will let you do some special things like pick an unpaired combination of tile and animal token, or wipe any number of animal tokens from the row and draw new ones. We had a chance to play the Landmarks expansion earlier this year, which adds a few new things. The new animal cards I thought were fine, but I really liked the addition of the landmarks. This module lets you collect cards by matching terrain types and gives you some additional scoring opportunities.
47.
My number 47 is Project Elite. This is pretty rare for me, a real-time game that I enjoy, and I think there are a few specific reasons why it works for me. Number one is that it's a co-op. Tell me that a game is a real-time competitive game, and I am out right away. Number two is that the real-time element of this game is portioned out in 2-minute segments. So you get a chance to strategize. You hit the timer, start rolling the dice like mad, and then when the timer stops and the smoke clears, you have a chance to try to strategize again. And the third reason is because I love just how intense this game is. During the game, waves and waves of aliens are going to be invading, and you and the other players are a task force that can't let them get past. During the 2 minutes of real-time pandemonium, you're going to be rolling dice as fast as possible. The dice will let you do a couple of things, like move, activate character or weapon actions, or search for gear. They might also make you move the aliens forward. Aliens are always going to be moving along a prescribed path. The problem is that there will be multiple paths and too many aliens to cover all at once. And as if all of this isn't enough, there are also alien bosses which will make their way onto the board and are basically terrible. They'll cause major damage, boost the aliens around them, or generally just find ways to throw a wrench into the works for you and your team. Odds are you won't be able to take them all out at once, so you really have to prioritize before each round begins. Oh, and while all of this is going on, you need to be completing certain objectives based on the scenario that you happen to be playing. So yeah, this game can be super tough, especially for someone with a dice luck deficiency like myself.
Yeah, dice ain't been too lucky for me, you know.
But I love it. This game feels like an action movie on the table.
46.
Number 46 is A Feast for Odin. I know for quite a few folks in my gaming circles, at least, this would probably be up in their top 10. I think this game is pretty well known for having a lot of things going on, but while it's a fairly heavy game, I don't think it's as complicated as it looks at first glance. Yes, it's true, there are a lot of worker placement spots out there, but if you look at them row by row, it's not so bad. Each row will give you a certain type of benefit, and the benefit gets better based on the number of workers you send out there. This is a generalization, of course, but and not all of the spaces fit this description, but enough of them do to make it a little bit less overwhelming. What I love about the game is that you have so many different choices of paths that you can take. You can farm, you can raid and pillage, you can go whaling or hunting, or you can explore new islands. Every one of these strategies feels valid. This is also my highest rated game with a polyomino tile laying aspect. As you collect different goods and treasures, you're trying to cover a grid to avoid negative points and to gain more income. You'll have grids on your main board, plus you'll have one on each new island that you explore. There are a handful of polyomino tile games that I enjoy, but I've never been as hot on them as everybody else seems to be. But this is one that I think is really cool and definitely an exception to my rule.
45.
Number 45 is Gaia Project, and looking at this section of the list, I think this is also the point where my overall taste starts to really shine through. There are a few exceptions, of course, but I think that my mid to mid-heavy Euro preferences are really going to start being apparent from here on out. Although I don't think I'd consider Gaia Project a medium or medium-heavy. This is definitely a heavy game. This is a space-themed reiteration of Terra Mystica. They took a fantastic game and changed a few things around to make a similar but different game that is also fantastic. You'll be doing a lot of the typical Eurotrope things in this game, managing resources, moving up tracks, and scoring objectives. Like in Terra Mystica, you'll have to terraform planets to fit your particular alien race. Plus, each race has its own special, unique abilities. I love this type of income generation in this game too, where putting a building out on your board helps you increase your income. You can upgrade those buildings, but then you will be taking certain buildings off, which will reduce your income. It's a tough decision to make, but one that I really love making. Each game is going to be very different depending on how the map lays out and which aliens are used and which objectives come out. It's a super crunchy experience and one that I really love.
44.
Number 44 is The Crew, or The Crew Mission Deep Sea. Really, any version of The Crew. I think the Mission Deep Sea is my favorite version of the game, but if that did not exist, I don't know that the quest for Planet 9 would be in a different spot. I honestly believe that if there were only one The Crew to choose from, it would end up in a very similar place on my list. I just really enjoy both of them. When I first heard about this, it kind of threw me for a loop. I grew up playing trick-taking games, especially euchre, which is team-based, but the idea of a fully cooperative trick-taking game was kind of mind-blowing to me. Depending on which version you play, you may receive different types of objectives for each hand, but no matter which version you're playing, you're going to attempt, with limited information, to try and make sure that everyone meets their objectives. These will be things like making sure that one player wins a trick with a specific card in it, or making sure that one player doesn't win any tricks at all. And to make it even more difficult, you may have to complete these objectives in a very specific order. Of all of the games on my list, this one puts me on edge the most. Even though you're all trying to work together, you don't know who has what cards, and so you need to pay very close attention to which cards have been played. It also kind of helps if you know that secret language of trick-taking games. If I play this card, it tells you X about my hand. The reason this one feels so intense for me is because more than almost any other co-op game that I play anyway, I worry about letting everyone else down in the game. Luckily, it's just the right amount of tension for me, and I really love it.
43.
Number 43 holds a pretty special place in my board gaming memory, and that's Istanbul. We had purchased a few games online before getting Istanbul, but this was the first game that we purchased when we discovered our friendly local game store. A big shout out to Out of the Box for helping us get into this hobby. Our first time in, they asked us what kinds of games we'd played, what we liked, and even recommended a few YouTube channels to watch if we wanted to learn more about games. Unfortunately, the location that we used to frequent closed down this year, but luckily they have a few other locations nearby, and we're going to continue to be loyal customers. As far as the game of Istanbul goes, the idea of this one is really fascinating to me, especially in my early days of gaming, although I still love it. You're going to be traveling around the town by moving a stack of tokens, which represents you and your assistants, and taking actions wherever you land, but only if you're able to either drop off or pick up an assistant from that location. You're going to be gathering and trading goods and money with the ultimate goal of being able to be the first to fill up your cart with rubies. You'll also be able to get cards that will give you a one-time ability, and you'll have a family member that you can free from jail and send out to help you, although they have a tendency to wind back up in jail. That's okay though, because then they're available to send out again. It really boils down to trying to find the most efficient route around the board, and I've played this one at all player counts, and I think it plays well across all of them. I think I do prefer it best at 4 because it doesn't go on too long, but there are still a lot of opportunities to kind of get in other people's way and try to slow them down.
42.
Number 42 is Res Arcana. And I'll admit that this was a game that I was pretty lukewarm on at first. I thought it was just okay. But the more I play it, the more its brilliance shines through. In this game, you have a very limited hand of cards that you'll draft at the beginning of the game. And these are all of the cards that you will have available to you for the entire game. And it will be pretty difficult to draw new cards into your hand, so you really need to make the best with what you have, which is kind of a common theme amongst most of my favorite games. You're going to be using the cards to gather resources, to claim locations, and build bigger and better cards. A lot of your typical engine building tropes. But for me, that limited number of cards is really what puts this game into the next level. It's so incredibly satisfying to find a way to make that engine work for you. The order that you play your cards can be very important, and you really need to pay attention during the initial draft to make sure that you're getting cards that will let you progress from the early game into the late game. You'll also be playing as a character that will have their own power or a certain resource that they can gain each round. None of these abilities seem especially powerful, but in this game I think that's exactly what you want. Simplicity and minimalism with crunchy gameplay underneath. There are a lot of things to consider, but there isn't an overabundance of complexity, which is great. I would say that if you've only played this one once or twice, maybe give it another shot. Not every game is for every gamer, so it may not be for you, but I know that this one took me a little while to grow on me, but now I really like it.
41.
And last but not least this week, my number 41 is Puerto Rico, or in our case, Puerto Rico 1897, which reimagined the theme while keeping a majority of the mechanisms in place. This was one of the first games that I played with the following mechanism, which is now one of my favorite mechanisms and shows up on several games on this list. In fact, I just mentioned Race for the Galaxy earlier in this video. Players draft rolls, and then everyone gets to take the action on that roll, if there is one, and the person who drafted it gets an added bonus. This game is very much about timing and trying to get the right goods on the right ships at the right time to score the most points. You'll do this by building farmland to be able to grow different types of crops, and the different crops will be worth a different amount of points. And you want to try to get as many of your high value crops onto the ship as you can before time runs out. Now, I know there are a lot of folks out there who have played this game a ton and know all of the right moves to make, but I am not one of those people. I enjoy playing the game, but I am not really sure that I would want to have the game entirely figured out, or I'd lose a lot of the joy that I get from playing it. Most of that joy comes from learning the best way to play, not from knowing the best way to play. And I would say that's true of any of these games. For me, the joy comes from discovery. And that feeling of discovery is thankfully still there for me in Puerto Rico. All right, everyone, that is it for my 50 to 41 favorite games of all time. Let me know in the comments what you think of these games, and don't forget to hit that like button while you're there. And we'll see you next week for my 40 to 31. And until next time, let's get another round for the table.